Well, let's talk about that game. Saturday night, Rams get the win over the Arizona Cardinals, the third game of the Saturday tripleheader. It was 13-9. Rams get the win over the Cardinals. Interesting run here by the Rams since scoring 44 against the Bills a few weeks ago. They've now scored 44 points over their last 3 games, Sam. 44 points over 3 games, and they've won all of them, giving up less than 10 points in all of them. So the Rams get the win. They move to 10-6, and like I said, they win this on Saturday night, and then they're watching on Sunday. Sean McVay said that he'd be watching. Les Snead's got a video out there about, oh man, that was terrible. He was watching Sunday Night Football. They needed 3+ things to happen, and the third thing happened last night. Commanders beat the Falcons on Sunday Night Football, and that solidified the playoff spot in the NFC West for the Rams, meaning they go into Week 18 with the ability to rest starters in their matchup against Seattle, which, again, if things didn't fall their way yesterday, that would have been for the division next week or close to it.
Right. I'm trying to work out are the Rams formidable or not as like a playoff threat, because we've seen them at their best. I mean, they've beaten Minnesota handily. Like they have the most conclusive win over the Vikings this season, and it's one of 2, right? Like Detroit, the other number 1 seed contender in the NFC, and the Rams are the 2 teams that have beaten Minnesota this year, and the Rams did it most conclusively of all. That was the one game where Minnesota genuinely wasn't really they weren't really in it, really. I mean, that was the game with the late face mask, but even that was like just to keep the game alive. It wasn't, the Vikings were in position or whatever. They were backed up in their own end zone and were in trouble and needed that drive to get anything done, and the drive was taken away from them because of the blown face mask call. But anyway.
Face mask.
Huh?
A little face mask there, yeah.
Right. Like the Rams took care of them more conclusively than anybody. They also put 44 points on Buffalo and looked unstoppable in that game. But then you have other games where it's like they don't look particularly good at all on either side of the ball. So I'm trying to, but because of all this, weirdness with all the good teams being in the NFC North, they're the 3 seed. Like,
yeah,
they're going to be hosting a game. They're the 3rd seed, and they've shown high points of being able to knock off the best teams in the NFL in either conference, and yet they're coming into the playoffs off of a few sort of underwhelming games against not necessarily dominant teams.
The other thing I'm trying to figure out is the Matthew Stafford factor here. Like just a few weeks ago, this was Week 14. Again, they go toe-to-toe with the Bills, put up 44 points, and I don't think Stafford missed a throw. I mean, he's throwing the ball into finite windows, unreal, 93.5 PFF passing grade, almost 400 yards passing, and since that point, he's been terrible. And there's a rain game with the Rams, but I mean, it was just like misreading coverages, 6 turnover-worthy plays per PFF over the last 3 games. I thought maybe back in the Dome, this could help a little bit back in the controlled environment in LA. Just kind of an uneven passing attack, but I think from a Rams perspective, it is encouraging that they can win with defense, that they can, given the youth movement. And it is a fascinating 2-year study with the Rams, how they've, I've said this a few times now, but had the emergence of Kyron Williams at running back, had the emergence of Puka Nacua on offense last year, and now defensively, they spent 4 draft picks on the defensive line, and you're seeing Braden Fisk and Jared Verse, you're seeing those guys, you're seeing Cam Kinchins on the back end, and so the game ended with Akilla Witherspoon making the game-ending diving interception on the ball that hit Trey McBride in the helmet, and it was close. It was a close battle, but man, you see in the Rams defense, start to make some plays here. They're a young defense.
They really are, all of them. I mean, you look at the top kind of pressure leaders for the team yesterday, and it's Jared Verse, Byron Young, Braden Fisk, like 3 draft picks over the last 2 years. Yeah. They're young playmakers making plays, and that's with a non-dominant game from a guy like Kobie Turner, who obviously was so good a year ago. That young defensive line is extremely good and formidable. And then, Cam Kinchins has made a bunch of plays. Now, the one he made yesterday, the interception on 4th and long, it's like, just bat that down. You actually cost them 30, 40 yards of field position, which almost came back to bite them. Like if Trey McBride had his head around slightly earlier, or Kyler Murray been able to delay the pass a beat, and instead of it clanging off his face mask and getting picked off, that's a touchdown, you'd be looking at Cam Kinchins and saying, dude, your play, just pat it down. That cost us quite dearly here. But anyway, he's made a few plays this season. They have got quite an impressive young core on defense now.
it was Trey McBride who did have a huge game and finally got into the end zone. Right? They were feeding him in the tight red zone as we suspected. He gets his first touchdown reception on the screen pass, but he finished with 12 catches for 123. Was a little hard on himself at the end there because it was the ball that goes off his face mask. I don't know if you saw what Steve Smith, friend of the show, was saying. Steve was blaming Kyler Murray on that.
I mean, the ball came out early and fast at him.
For rushing it a little bit.
It was difficult. Yeah. However, I mean, I told you, there's that old adage that if it hits you in the hands, you got to catch it. And I've always thought that was kind of ridiculous because sometimes, it hits you. If it hits you in your hand when you're going that way and there's one hand back there and it hits the hand, it's like you shouldn't necessarily be expected to catch that. But if it hits you in the head, right in the face, I think you might be able to. I would have more sympathy for the adage, if it hits you right in the face, you should catch it, than if it touches your hand, you should catch it. That's all I'm saying. So was it difficult? Yeah. Should he have been able to catch it?
So
maybe.
You're blaming McBride.
I'm just saying, in the world of, things that the ball should touch without hitting the ground, I have more sympathy for the idea that if it hits you smack dead in the face, you should catch it, than if it hits your hand in any description, you should catch it. But anyway, great game from McBride again, unfortunately in a losing effort, but that guy's been dominant this season.
Yeah, he's been outstanding. Pretty nice game from Marvin Harrison Jr., but not enough. I mean, Arizona, they were down early. They fought back into it and had a chance to win at the end. And, just to repeat, when you look at the run that the Rams have been on, beat the Saints 21-14, then you have the 44-42 game against the Bills, which is like the anomaly here. And then the last 3 wins for the Rams, 12-6 in San Francisco, 19-9 against the Jets, and 13-9 against the Arizona Cardinals. They've kind of morphed into this, ball control, play defense type of team. And I'll say it again, if you could just bottle up good Stafford, you say, hey, I don't know how dangerous the Rams are.
Right.
Puka Nacua looks outstanding. The mistake I made with Prize Picks was thinking Cooper Kupp might come back. Again. From a reception standpoint. They're not featuring him
at all.
And he doesn't look the same. Like when you watch him move versus Puka, it's like Puka looks like the year 2, very athletic, ready to go. I mean, he's just doing everything well pretty much, and Cooper Kupp looks like more of an afterthought in this offense.
Kupp has 4 catches in the last 3 games. And it's not like he's not playing. Like he's out there almost every snap, and yet it's just the ball is going to Nacua
they're
every time.
Rotating him out more than they have, I would say. So
sure, but he's playing a lot. I mean, we're not seeing somebody that this is not a product of them scaling his workload back. This is a product of them going somewhere else with the ball.
Yeah. So look, I think the Rams are dangerous. Again, because I think when you add up the totality of Matthew Stafford's season, it's probably on the lower end of his recent performances, but you just never know when you're going to get the high end from him.
Well, one thing that's happening, I mean, he's dodging a lot of bullets recently in terms of turnover-worthy plays. Remember that 49ers game where they won in an ugly performance and he didn't have an interception, but the first thing he said when he came to the desk, to interviewed afterwards, like I threw the ball right at the chest of a couple of 49ers early in the game.
Yeah.
Once I stopped doing that, cleaned it up right up, which is true. And he's had like 6 turnover-worthy plays in the last 3 games. And that, I mean, I think we tend to forget that is a trait of Stafford's career. Like last year, cut way back on them. Like had very few turnover-worthy plays, under 2% according to PFF. But his career baseline is 3.2, which is a pretty damn high number, particularly for a guy that gets talked about as one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. And even when they first acquired him, when the Rams first acquired him, and overall in the season, the numbers were sort of through the roof, but I don't know that his performance was necessarily that much better than in previous Stafford years. And then in the playoffs, he really clicked into better Stafford. But even in the playoffs, remember, he put the ball in the hands of a Tampa Bay defender in the end zone, which didn't get caught, which could have completely changed the entire outcome of that Super Bowl.
He threw the one, the Niners dropped one.
Right.
Down the field as well in the NFC Championship. Yeah.
Multiple NFC opponents.
And he was great. I mean,
run.
I thought he was outstanding on that.
That was the best Stafford. Run was exactly what they were looking for in terms of that's the run we don't think Jared Goff is capable of. We get Stafford in specifically for that ceiling, but even in that run, he gave each defense he faced an opportunity to take the ball away and change the outcome of the game. That is a feature of Stafford's game, and has generally always been, and I think we're seeing it more this season. Again, even though he's been he hasn't actually been punished for those in the last few weeks.
So the Rams started 1-4, Sam.
Yes.
1-4, have a week 6 bye. They are
and the 3 seed.
9-2.
I think I saw recently a stat that said something like they are the second or the only team to have consecutively made the playoffs, having started something like 1-4 2 consecutive years, because they did this last year as well.
Yeah, starting slow.
So it's something like they're the only team in NFL history to make the postseason 2 years straight, having started 1 and whatever.
Last year they started, the first team since the 2020 Washington football team to start 1-4 specifically. Last year the Rams started 3-6.
Okay.
And then made the playoffs.
So it's something like maybe it was X games below 500, like starting 3 games below 500 and make the playoffs 2 years in a row, something like that.
So congrats to the Rams. They're in the playoffs. They'll play Seattle in what amounts to, I think it's meaningless, right? It's not going to affect, it can't affect seeding. So meaningless Week 18 game.
Can probably affect Seattle's draft position, but not by much. And it's in the middle of the first round, so who cares? Thanks for watching all the way to the end of our video.
For more great content, click here to subscribe and here to watch another video. We'll see you again soon.